Hey everyone, it's Friday, April 30th. Welcome to episode 8 of my podcast, Is Breakfast Included? Now today on the podcast, we sit down with Matthew McNeal. Now Matt is a singer-songwriter out of Fort Worth, Texas, and he also happens to be a very, very good friend of mine. We cover a lot of ground in this interview. Matt talks about why and when he started playing music, all the way to starting his own record label. And he also has a little surprise at the end of the interview. So let's get to it. All right, man. Tell everyone who you are.
Hi, I am Matthew McNeal. I live in Fort Worth, Texas, and I am honored to be a friend of the great Bernie.
I'll give you the money after. Tell me about it, man. Tell me how you got started. I kind of know your story, but to where you are now, but kind of like when did you start playing guitar?
You know, I picked up the guitar. I picked up the drums first, and I mean, I was probably 12 or 13, and kind of a handful of people started playing the drums, and I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to play the guitar too if we're gonna ever make music together. So I did that. I just kind of started teaching myself, and then flash forward a couple of years, me and some friends helped open like a DIY club in Terrell, small town in East Texas that I grew up in. And it was so cool to see touring acts come through. I mean, it was all in like the hardcore and punk and pop punk scene. Mm-hmm. And there's just such a sense of community in that. And that really inspired me. I was already in pursuit of music, whatever that looked like. And kind of being a part of that DIY space was amazing. And then in the summertime, I would work at a peach orchard just outside of Terrell. And one of the days, a guy came in with long hair, kind of a rock and roller. And I was like, I'm going to go talk to this guy. And come to find out, he was picking up some peaches to bring to Aerosmith. They were on tour playing in Dallas. And we kind of became buddies. And he came back couple weeks later and was like, man, I know you play music. Would you be interested in coming to see like what I do? And I was like, well, I don't even know what you do, but count me in. And then a couple weeks later, I was doing some like runner work, like backstage stuff at a 20,000 cap amphitheater in Dallas, working for John Mayer, and getting to see that, like getting to watch a show from side stage and see how the like biggest tours operated, as well as these small DIY like operations. I fell in love with not only the creation of music and the artistry of like performing and writing and recording, but in the logistics, the way it happens. So both of those have led to another 10 more years of working behind the scenes at shows and 10 years of touring and recording and writing and playing, producing. I'm crazy.
We all are.
I think so. I think that's what it takes.
So what year did you start performing in a band or as a solo act? Did it happen shortly after you opened up this DIY venue?
I think I played my first show, like public show, when I was 15, and played pretty consistently after that. I mean, it started off as, a handful of shows a year, playing on like weekends all around like North Texas, and just finding like skate parks that would host shows and coffee shops that would host shows. I was in a pop punk band that I started in like early high school. And then the day after I graduated high school, we were voted on to play the Dallas date of like Warped Tour. Uh-huh. And so that was kind of a fun way to more or less close that chapter. I had always been writing my own music as well as for that project. And once I went to college, I had an opportunity in front of me to go to college for relatively free, basically. And so I was like, well, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity, grab a marketing degree, figure out how I can do this whole thing myself, because I don't know anybody. I'm not from a musical family. I don't have any connection, but I'm going to make a connection.
Yeah.
And started playing at 15, and I'm now 28. And up until last year, we were playing like 120 shows a year, coast to coast.
Yeah. And you say that's the current music act that goes under your name. Matt McNeal.
Under the like Matthew McNeal career, Matthew McNeal project. It's
but it is a band.
Yes, correct. It started off as just my name because I was doing everything just by myself, and then one of my like childhood best friends, he's my business partner, he's my brother, he's my writing partner. We run Matt Black Sound, our record label, together. His name is Andre Black, and he's the one that helps me facilitate all this. And so though the band is my name, everything is always split 50-50. It's kind of like a Tom Petty, Mike Campbell kind of thing. I mean, Andre does so much more. He does, he's like our house engineer at Matt Black Sound. He is a studio extraordinaire, producer extraordinaire. And so the Matthew McNeal side of things is just one of the things that we kind of do. And I always feel vain that it's my name, but hey, man, Bob Dylan, it wasn't built by himself, and Bruce Springsteen, Tom Petty, all these guys that go by their name. There's so much more than just them.
Yeah. And how long have you guys been together making music, not including the other endeavors?
13 years.
13 years.
Yeah.
How many releases have you guys released? Albums.
So through Matthew McNeal, we've done 3 official studio albums. We would always play together, just jamming and stuff. And so we would do like drums and bass on some friends' releases and stuff like that. But we really kind of, when I shifted about a year into college, I was like, well, I can't do this on my own. So I'm going to tap Andre and say, hey, like, do you really want to do this? Do you want to independently book as many shows as possible all over the country and just figure it out? And he said, absolutely. And so that was in 2013 when we kind of made that shift. Our like studio, we started touring heavily in 14. Studio debut was in 2015, and then we followed it up with a handful of other projects. But the flagship artist of Matt Black Sound and what we do is like the Matthew McNeal career. And we just wrapped up our 4th studio album that'll come out this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned Tom Petty at least twice.
Yeah.
Is that one of your guys, or who are the guys that you looked up to that kind of because you got your own thing going on. Mm-hmm. I've heard it, and it's your own thing, but who are your guys, your influences? Yeah. So to speak.
Man, it's I try to be like a sponge and be open to anything that I can that I really kind of vibe with or that catches me. Tom Petty is one that I found late. Like I grew up on, like my parents loved like kind of the country music of the time, like all the George Strait and Alan Jackson and everything. So I always like I got a taste for like that type of songwriting early on. My mom was a big fan of like Teddy Pendergrass and Al Green. So I really love that, like the emotion of it all. Odd enough, like the artist that made me fall in love with music, I mean, at age, 4 or 5, I lived for Michael Jackson. I like something about the groove, the spirit, the attitude, the energy. I mean, I know it can be a controversial like thing, but like when it boils down to just music, it really resonated for me. And I love Tom Petty. I love the Beatles. I came into a lot of that late. I didn't listen to the Beatles, Tom Petty, Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen, any of these like icons. I didn't listen to them until I started touring, and we had hours and hours to just dig into music on the road. I loved, like a big artist for me was a guy named Dallas Green. He performs under the name City and Color. He was in a hardcore band called Alexis on Fire. And that really resonated with me because, you know, in my early teens, I was in this hardcore scene.
Yeah.
And, but I felt like I had more to say than just that. And so, seeing that it could be done, that you could be in a really tough band, but also have this really sensitive, like straight to the heart songwriting, I was really struck by that. I know it's not like a huge, like this is my exact person, but I try to be open to anything from soul music to rock and roll to R&B to songwriter stuff, country music, folk music, anything. If I like it, I'll take it and use it. We try to create without limits. That's kind of why we started the label, is to not really have any guidelines, more or less.
No, that answer completely makes sense, you know, after
Thanks.
hearing your stuff.
Thanks so much.
So you do the Matthew McNeal project.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do you start Matt Black Sound?
We started...
And I know you just said why you started it, but at what point did you like, you know, we got to start our own record label?
Yeah, we had always done so much more than just performing, from, you know, independently booking and just operating, figuring out how to do all of this, you know. And we had always done that, but we were like, well, at some point, somebody has to come help us. Like, we're going to have to pitch this record everywhere. So we recorded a record called Good Luck, and we recorded it in late 2016, early 2017. We had made a bunch of friends from touring, and we had some people pitch it around, send it out to some labels and kind of management teams and see, what should we do? Does anybody want to team up for this? I mean, we were like, we have a killer record. It was recorded with Grammy winners and, you know, some like hot artists. And we sent that around, and there was a call that I had with a manager friend of ours, and it kept seeming like we're just going to keep sending it around. We're going to keep sending it. Haven't heard anything, but we're going to keep sending it. And I remember getting off the phone, and there's like a little lake behind my house, and it's like a mile around it. And I was like, whatever, man. I hung up the phone. I put on my shoes, and I don't run, but I ran a mile, and I was like, we're going to do this ourselves. We're going to, whatever it means. I don't want to have to wait on somebody to say they're going to help me and then let me down. I know that seems like such a guarded thing to say, but what we had learned at that point was no one's going to work harder for you than you. And so Andre and I were like, cool, let's figure it out. Let's figure out distribution, let's get some vinyl press, figure out, you know, some PR stuff to get it out there. And so we founded Matt Black Sound officially in 2017, and our first release was Good Luck in February of 2018.
Okay.
Then we hit the road.
And you've had 3 studio albums, including Good Luck.
Correct. There was Compadre, 2015, Good Luck, 2018, and Good Grief, which was last year, 2020.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. You know, there's more.
And do you guys have other artists on your label, or is it just...
We aim to have Matt Black Sound be more of like a connecting hub for artists rather than act as a traditional label, kind of like a bank where we're like, we'll front you the stuff and facilitate it, and then we'll recoup it. We do that for ourselves and artists that we like directly work with. Like if we produce something, or if we did drums and bass and most instrumentation, we'll do that just because we've already done most of it. But more often than not, we just help artists connect with what they need. It's like, well, do you want a label or do you want a tour? Because I'll show you how to tour. Mm-hmm. Or do you want to figure out how to distribute your music or press vinyl or find a killer studio? We'll help you with any of that. And I'm not even trying to make a buck off of you. I would rather empower you to use the tools and the new way the industry is leaning to be empowered to do it yourself, until that way you don't have to give away something, like sign away your publishing or your songwriter credits or anything without knowing what you're really doing. We just try to empower and educate.
Kind of mentor.
Yeah, we just love this scene, and we've learned so much the hard way, and I would rather help people not have to do that.
Yeah. So we know that it's you and Andre in the band.
Mhm.
It's a 2-piece band.
Touring, yeah,
Touring.
typically.
In the studio, you bring in other musicians.
Oftentimes, yeah. The record that'll be coming out this year, 2021. Andre and I did it ourselves, just the two of us, over quarantine. But traditionally, we'll have our buddy Joey McClellan. He plays with El King and Israel Nash and Midlake and the Fieros. We have his brother Aaron McClellan, who's played with Banquet, Midlake, Alejandro Escovedo. Pedal steel player Eric Swanson plays with like Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats and Israel Nash. And then all of our studio albums from Good Luck On have been mixed for sure, sometimes engineered and produced by Ted Young, who is one of our best friends. He lives in Philly now, but he's done all of like Kurt Weill's stuff. He's got like a Grammy with the Rolling Stones. I mean, he's just like a audio sonic genius. And so getting to work directly with him has really helped us grow. And rather than just make music with a single layer of like, oh, I want to move somebody, I want to be honest, and I want it to be cool and make sense. It's like, well, there's such a depth that comes in when you really care about fidelity and like, let's make this sound as big and beautiful and rich as it can. And again, kind of like going into the logistics of how touring works, I love the logistics of how the studio works and how to maximize what this song is and what it sounds like to have it be even more impactful.
So all those guys play on your albums. You work with
Ted
Young.
Yeah, Ted Young. And then Jessica Thompson, she's on the West Coast. She masters all of our stuff, and she's like the most fabulous mastering engineer in the universe, as far as I'm concerned.
In being a 2-piece, does it take away anything in your touring, your live sound, by being a 2-piece from hearing it on vinyl?
Yeah, we kind of...
Does it limit you or anything?
There for bigger shows, we'll bring the guys out. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, I mean, in the past, they've been so busy playing with other artists that it's kind of hard to get our schedules to align. But when we play live as a 2-piece, at first we did that to be able to do it in the first place. Like, we were like, well, we can't pay 5 people to travel with us 6 months out of the year. We just can't financially do that. And I've never been one to be like, well, cool, I'll just put it all on a credit card and we'll worry about it later, because it's going to take 5 years before anything happens, you know? So we started doing that out of necessity. But after clocking in so many shows, you kind of figure out, man, I think we can do something cool here that maybe no one else tries to do. So I ended up splitting my guitar signal to like 3 amps. Certain times there's 4 amps, and I mean different effects chains to each amp. The 1 amp makes it sound like a bass, and it's octave down to where I'm essentially playing the bass part, a rhythm guitar, and a lead guitar part, while Andre plays the drums and has like a SPD pad that has like kind of auxiliary percussion sounds. Yeah. And we instead of being like, well, let's try to make it exactly like it is on the record, we're like, well, it's a lot more fluid because it's 2 of us. We've played together for so long. We know what we're like. I know what he's going to play 4 counts before he does it, and vice versa. So we kind of use that freedom to our advantage to just do something exciting while we're on the road.
Yeah. Right on, man. Well, I've seen you live.
Yeah.
So I just thought I'd ask the question. So the millions of people that are going to listen to this.
That's right.
Know what you're doing. So you mentioned the quarantine earlier. How did that affect you? I know it affected your live shows, but did you guys get kind of creative in with Matt Black Sound or with recording, or did you just kind of sit around and wait it out?
So it really all happened at once. We had a lot going on for South by in 2020. And we were releasing a record in April of 2020. So we had a lot of press teed up and everything. And I remember right when South by canceled, I was like, okay, this is going to be a thing. This is a real big deal. And so we ended up having to cancel like over 100 shows for the album release. And then with all of the behind the scenes work that I know that you and I met doing that, I mean, there's 150 shows that are gone. Yeah. So it was like, okay, cool. That freed up my calendar for the foreseeable future. And so, yeah, we, at the very beginning, our project was, how do we release this record and make it something positive? Good Grief, the record that came out in 2020, basically documented the really tough stuff that happened to me from the release of Good Luck onward. My father passed out of nowhere on my birthday. I turned 25. He was gone. Then our house caught fire. Then a couple weeks later, I was T-boned on the highway. It totaled the car on a hit and run. Then I had my identity stolen, and then I got married. And it was a lot. And so we had the record Good Grief kind of chronicles all of that. And
the marriage being the good thing.
The marriage is the good thing. The marriage is like, we want it to be good grief as in like, both good, like it's grief that is good from bad things happening, and good grief like this is all happening. Yeah. But yeah, the marriage and the wedding to my beautiful wife Emily, we've been together this whole time. She's such a huge pillar in what we do creatively here. But that was the beautiful side that kind of helped me see the light in all of these bad things. And so we were like, well, let's have that be kind of the narrative of the release of Good Grief. And I mean, I will say April 2020 was probably the worst time to release an album, because that's like right when everything shut down and nobody knew for how long or for, what the deal was. But we try to make it a good thing. We've been fortunate enough to get some cool radio play, and we got in Rolling Stone, which was really cool, an American songwriter, and like all of these things that we had really wanted for a long time. We just focused to be like, well, how do we get this album to people to make them see that this bad situation is, no matter how long it's going to last, which would end up be, a year or so, you can make it into a good thing. So that early on, Good Grief was our focus. And then with kind of the state of the country in 2020, with it all kind of, this side of our thing sparked with like the George Floyd incident. We through Mad Black Sound, we put out like a protest album, and we gave all the funds to like anti-police brutality places and Campaign Zero. And then we released over the summer through the Matthew McNeal project, we recorded a version of the Beatles' Blackbird, and we gave all the proceeds of that to NAACP Fort Worth. And we wanted to shift our focus from like me to, well, yes, everybody's in a tough spot, so let's see what we can do to bring some light into this kind of often dark place that I think a lot of people fell in, especially in our industry where people are home. I mean, a lot of us haven't been home in 10 years for this long. And so, we wanted to see if we could help people. We kind of shifted to a more studio-centric focus since we couldn't tour. Like I said, we've got an album in the bag. We've even got songs beyond that album that are already tracked. And we use the shift in perspective to inspire us and get us to look at things in a new way, in a new light. And I mean, it's certainly been tough, but I think it's kind of like, I always make the reference of like a bow and arrow. Like sometimes the further that things are like pulled back and more tensions put on the line, whenever you do let go, if you can manage to keep a hold of it, it's just going to go even further. Yeah. And so that's kind of our perspective on it all.
I do have this one question. Earlier, you said your identity had gotten stolen.
Oh, yeah.
The guy that stole your identity, is he having more success as Matt McNeal than you are?
Oh, man. I actually employed him to do that. Two Matthews are better than one, I thought.
Oh, George Jones trick, huh?
Yeah.
We'll double book you. Well, man, I just have a couple more questions for you. The podcast is called Is Breakfast Included? Mm-hmm. If breakfast was included, Matt, what would you have?
Oh, my goodness. Okay. I've become an oatmeal man over quarantine. I like some oats, a little bit of brown sugar, my brother-in-law, he has like a bunch of beehives and has some like honey out in West Texas. I use that, some blueberries. Normally it's blueberries and blackberries, but now I got some raspberries. I like to mix it up, So oatmeal is my thing. It used to be granola and yogurt and stuff, but the oatmeal doesn't do me wrong. Oh, and matcha. I've been big into matcha. I'm not a coffee drinker, but I can make myself a mean matcha latte at home.
Right on, man. Well, this is the first time I'm going to ask someone.
Ooh, ask.
Would you play a song for me?
Oh my gosh, I would love nothing more. Really though, I'd be honored to.
Cool. Let's do it.
All right. Well, this song is called All for Nothing. Sometimes it feels like I'm wasting my time, losing my mind, all for nothing. When I think of what's in my head all the time, I'm lost inside, all for nothing. Time after time we come to find that if it's not right by now, then it won't be right. Not without your help, marry me. You can have me all for yourself. Things that make up your mind. Did I make up my mind all for nothing? Well, are you gonna just leave things be? Leave me behind all for nothing? Time after time we come to find that if it's not right by now, then it won't be right. Well, are you gonna stick around and tough it out? Try to get away somehow, 'cause I've gotta know, am I part of your plan? Do you wanna leave and find yourself, or are you gonna be my man? Oh, wish I could figure you out, but you're so damn proud.
Right on, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Happy to do it.
Thanks for doing that, man. And before we end, I just want to say this. I've known you a long time. I met you in 2014.
Damn.
And I think I've told you this before, but I want to tell, like I said, the millions of people that are listening to this. I just wanted to say, I met you in 2014 and we hung out. We had dinner. We worked together at some point, and it was 4 or 5 months before I found out you played guitar and had a band. And in this business, people are quick to let you know what they do and what they're doing and what you should do with it. And I think that's the one thing I respected most about you. You never mentioned it. And I called you.
Yeah.
And I said, dude, you didn't even tell me you were in a band.
Well, it's like you said, everybody in this industry, it oftentimes seems like they want to sell you on something, or like, hey, you need to be listening to this. But man, it's those like personal human connection moments that's what makes the world go round. That's what I live for.
Yeah,
I mean, I would love for everybody to listen to this, but if there's no connection or a relationship and a dialogue there, whether it's us becoming friends or just a casual listener, I would rather them be struck by something and surprised by something rather than like, oh, here's another one of these guys or whatever.
Yeah. Well, anyway, man, I love you. Thank you for doing this, man. Thank you for sitting down with me. Thank you for playing that song.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah.
Let's do it again. I can shave, or I can cut my hair, and I could be a different person.
I want to talk to West Coast Matt McNeal.
Yeah. I want to. We can do different versions of myself, different names.
All right, brother. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, buddy.
Right. Bye-bye. Well, right on. That was Matthew McNeal. Pretty good song, yeah? Make sure you follow him on Instagram at @MattBlackSound and at Matthew McNeal Texas. That's 2 T's in Matthew, and Texas is just TX. So, at Matthew McNeal TX. Visit their website at mattblacksound.com and buy some records. All right, I'm done. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next week.